Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another session of Conscious Gatherers with Terry Palma and Bev Thompson. I hope you joined us last week. If you haven't, I hope you listened to last week's show. We had a guest speaker on, Hal Price, who's a author, internationally awarded author, children's author, and it was quite an interesting show, don't you think, Bev?
Oh, it was great. He talked about children's books. However, it goes so much deeper than that, and the show is for everybody. And it just what he went through himself and how he came about in writing his books, and then what the books have to, what they have to tell us and help us with. So I thought it was absolutely wonderful.
Excellent. Yep, I did too. So periodically we're going to bring in guests, speakers that we think the audience would like to hear, and let them have a chance to tell us what their thoughts are and feelings. And I think it'll give us some breadth to our show and our programming. So, Beth, what did you have on mind today, maybe, that we speak about?
Well, I thought we would talk about Gaia. And Gaia is the soul of our earth. And I thought we would go through this, some of the things that are going on, some of the things we can expect. Tells us a lot what's going on today. So we'll just see where this takes us.
Sounds good.
So are we ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, in my writings, Gaia is usually called our dear Lady Gaia, and she's so what's the right word? Special. I don't necessarily like the word special, but she is such a part of all of us, humanity, and we're on her. I mean, we're living on her skin, on the surface of the earth, but she is a live being. And it's hard for people to recognize that. I know it was difficult when I first heard that, difficult to understand. It's like, what? However, I have become to know Gaia in a much more deep way, and written about a lot about her and how we are, or how we have such a symbiotic relationship with her. And I'm going to kind of skip around on some of the things that I've received about Lady Gaia that I thought our audience would enjoy listening to or hearing about. So I'm just going to dive in. Basically, right now, Gaia is opening up her portals. There's a lot of talk about what a portal is, and most portals are a way to dimension hop. I really wasn't going to go there, but I guess we're going there now. And so we've resided in that third dimension, fourth dimension. That's what we're in now. What that means is a frequency change, and we're going through the frequency changes right now. And we're seeing, the topsy-turvy world in the last couple months with this virus, and it's making us all start looking deeper within us. So we are really going through the end times, and what that means, and we are shedding our costumes, and we've been asleep to who we really are, and we were hiding from our true selves. So we've been really creative in doing that, haven't we, Terry?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is happening is that our costumes, if you want to call it that, are masks. That's been a word's been used, but costumes are vanishing, and they're not going to return because we're not going to have need of those anymore, because we're beginning to understand who and what we are. We have talked previously about the Great Experiment, and I was told that this experiment, forming the duality, we talked about that, and bringing forces together. And the forces are what we would call polarities, as well as beings and energies from all over the universe or universes. Universes, in a plural sense, really means frequencies or dimensional, different dimensions. But it really has been an extraordinary accomplishment. And I'd like to share some of this writing because I thought, wow, this really hits home for what's happening today. It said it's not quite finished, but the end time draws near. Those of you who have chosen to be here now are a witness to this grand event. It is all of you who planned it. How about that? Let what remains unfold and be released. Let this plan be finished. It is time to move forward into a new life, a new time, a new plan. In fact, over the weekend there was a international world meditation, and they were calling it the 444 Gateway, meaning April 4th, 2020. Ends up with in numerology 444, and we were one group had said, indeed, we are in a new timeline, and it'll start unfolding as we open up our eyes a little bit fuller. But anyways, the writing goes on to say, the next few years shall be wondrous. The tears shall dry up. So the tears are our releasing tool, are there for each one of us to experience, and the tears shall turn into laughter and praise that each and every one of you have done it. We have shed our costumes. So there you go. So it may not, what is happening surprised many of us. It surprised me. I was not expecting to go through this virus event. And even though I've been told about, bioweapons, that sort of thing, but I thought, it's not going to happen. Well, guess what? It's happening. And but it really makes us go more internally, and I think the ones that released the virus had a little different expectations, and it's really bringing us closer together, and that's what's not expected. So it really tells us about our humanness and our abilities that we already have. I'd like to talk a little bit about Earth changes, because that's been bannered about for quite a few years. Because the Earth indeed is changing and going through going through a metamorphosis, and that she does need to let go of some gases and internal pent up gas. Well, I just have to say pent up gases because I don't know what else to say. And it needs to take place for Lady Gaia to balance her being. And that's exactly what we're doing. The duality programs, we went a little bit too far to the left, or we went a little bit too far to the right, to the dark, the light, whatever terminology you want to use, and we're balancing that, and the Earth is doing the same. They said, pardon me, the allergies have got me here.
Well, when you said
yeah,
that
go ahead.
Lady Gaia was releasing gases, really, and it's really releasing her emotions, and mostly probably negative affective emotions to allow them to be freed so that she can move on to a new frequency. Just as we hold within us emotional trauma that might have happened and we don't release it unless we know how to do it, going to a therapist or doing whatever you're going to do. Same thing with Lady Gaia. She's releasing those energies, and those energies are emotions, and being a living thing carries emotions, and so that's what that is. It might appear to us as gases or whatever it might be, thunderstorms or hurricanes and stuff, but it's really her releasing emotions that need to be cleansed from her so she can move on also. Bev, what were the dates on those readings you gave us?
Different dates. The Earth Change one was in 2011.
Right. So the point I'm bringing that up and asking, I remember when we used to meet as a group over 10 years ago, we were getting these readings from Cryon, Lee Carroll, from your writings, we were getting these. And, of course, being a population of now McDonald's and all the quick stuff, we're expecting that to happen. Okay, well, it didn't happen, so it's not going to happen. And the predictions they're seeing in time, and it's taking time for them to manifest. But all of those things that they talked about, that Cryon talked about, that you channeled in your books, they're all here now. They're coming to fruition, and so we've been expecting this. It just, we didn't know how it was going to come and what it was going to look like. I would never, in my imagination, back when, had a thought that I would see this world as it is today, where everybody on the face of the planet is being affected by the same thing. I never thought I would see this. I couldn't have imagined it. And now, when it all comes, I'm going back and seeing those predictions that we had gotten, and they all make sense now. They all made sense. They told us it was coming. How was this Earth going to change its vibration so that we on it can choose to move with it? I mean, I didn't foresee how this would happen, and now it's here, and now I understand. Wow, I can see the people that are being affected by the virus out of their choice. And it's hard to say, it's hard to understand consciously as a being, but if you think spiritually, they made that choice not to move on. It was their choice 100% of the time, and the reason it's hard to understand from our physical standpoint is because we're an avatar. We believe we are the avatar, and everything in our world is based around that physical avatar. When in reality, it's not. It's an illusion. It's nothing. It is not even real. Everything that's happened is just an illusion in our AI game that we're playing, and that when we transition out of the game, out of this virtual reality, we'll be fully aware of knowing what's going on and go, oh, I understand. Oh, I made that choice. Okay, cool. Maybe I have another chance to go in, and maybe I'll have a little bit more awareness and see what happens. So that's my personal take on this whole thing. It was foretold. We thought, we didn't know when it was coming, and it's here. It's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. It is. And there's more to come, and more will unfold.
A little bit more about what I just said in AI and virtual reality. I've been getting these messages lately through my dreaming or my meditation, because I play in that virtual reality world. I play in the world of Course of Miracles. Of course, the Course of Miracles is the one that's saying, and it's coming from Jesus. The Course of Miracles was a channeling of Jesus' teachings through the two people that did that this world is an illusion, that man created this world, and that it all can go away, and it doesn't have to affect you if you remember who you are and create the miracle for yourself and your loved ones. So I hold that thought. But it came to me because our society is moving very rapidly into the AI age. And it came to me like a slap on the head. Said, Terry, us humans here, we are the ultimate AI already. That's why we're able to create the AI technology, because we are the ultimate AI. If we're in a virtual reality, then our whole existence, our whole physicality is an AI. The only thing that's real is the mind that controls it all. Mm-hmm. I went, wow, that makes sense. Again, way off there in left field, but I thought I'd share that.
Well, it's not. But it realizes that we're projection of our consciousness, and I've been using those words for quite a while, but that's exactly what you're saying. Now, when we say AI, that doesn't mean that we're not organic or whatever word you want to use. That we're not full of wires. When we think of AI, we're thinking about we are, I guess, the wires. If you want to look at our nervous system.
What's artificial intelligence? It's a program in which you program it to act as, and I'm using quotes you can't see, as human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the human is artificial itself, and it is just simply a product of the imagination of the mind, then aren't we an AI?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's when and when all of the masters across the eons of time that have come to teach us, they've all said the same thing, but we've all misinterpreted. We've always thought in terms of being physical. So we've expected everything in terms of being physical. And they're not talking about being physical. How would Jesus say, you're all my brothers and sisters? We took that literal. No, he was talking about we're all mind. We're all part of God. God created us and we have never left him. And therefore we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the other masters and their teachings too that have the same thing. So as we wake up to who we really are, like Course in Miracles, today's lesson, and I think it's 97 or something, is I accept my part in God's plan for salvation. And so it's awakening that within me, I'm that part of God, and he has a plan for me. And this, when I say that, it's not a religious God that, as you would think from religion, it's our Creator who created me in his image, and I'm not God, but I am of God, and I have all the abilities that God gave me, which are all of his, which are joy, happiness, and none of the other stuff. He didn't create any sorrow. That's our own game that our ego plays with us to keep us in the virtual reality game.
Mm-hmm. Or we came up with this virtual reality game to understand ourselves more fully.
Correct. It's something that it's a learning mechanism, a teaching mechanism. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so when they say that Jesus came and your sins are forgiven, the reason they're forgiven because you never did anything wrong. You can't do anything wrong in a virtual reality. It's a game. It's a learning environment. People will judge it, but they shouldn't be because they don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
There's no judgment on God's part because he knows we're learning and interacting in this interface with other AIs, and we're learning and going for that. And we can go back anytime we want. And realizing that we've never lost our oneness with God. We've never lost our innocence. We've never done anything wrong. We're the ones who perceive and judge that we've done something wrong, but that's the ego part that we created. It's interesting. I'm going off on a tangent here for a minute. I haven't looked at this lately, but in Genesis, in the beginning of Genesis, and this is like in chapter 2, I think, 1 or 2, it talks about God creating, and he goes through a whole list on that. And in that it says God created man and female, he created them. Okay? Then somewhere in chapter 3, I think it is, in the beginning, it goes and says, and God made man, or made woman out of man. Well, God doesn't make anything. God only creates. So what God are they talking about in that verse? Because it wasn't the creator God. It had to be man God, who thought that was taking what he was given as a creator and creating the virtual reality. Because if you look at those words, the words change. Now remember, words have meaning. God never made anything. He created everything. And the word they used in there was made, which I found very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So is that I feel we're all part of God. As you said, we're a part of God, but we're also the mind, the heart mind of God, and God is love, period, and that's a frequency. So
yeah, I think that the whole Garden of Eden and all that whole thing was when Spirit said, I want to experience myself apart from the all. And that was that whole Apple stuff, this whole male, female, and all that. I think that was put in there to control things. But I think that whole Garden of Eden and that whole thing was an illustration of the time when Spirit decided it wanted to create an ego and figure out what it was like to be separate from all the all. And then at that point, God had already created a path back so that no one could lose themselves, but we've been playing that game, and we've been in that virtuality ever since.
Mhm.
That's my thought.
Well, and we're figuring out we've never been separate. And so you're talking about sin. There's really no such thing. And we may look at it as such because that's through the religions and some of the teachings that have gone forth before us. If you want to, there's no time, but time as we know it. I remember hearing that SIN stands for self-imposed nonsense.
Now also, I think the devil is a man-made creature, entity, non-realistic. And where does it say the devil has dominion over? Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we created that.
Yes.
And that's the ego over dividing the mind of us, spirit people, and thinking that we are our bodies. And thinking that the earth, the physical experiment, the exercise of what we are, is the real thing. And that's the devil. That's what's going on. There's no God. Why would God ever create a devil?
It makes no sense. And they keep that separate.
It's not literal.
Now,
a parent, a parent would never do that to their child. It doesn't. It's not logical.
Not logical at all. However, through the ego or through these programs, there are entities that present themselves. Because I've heard too many stories as not very nice. How's that?
But you've got to remember, you're right. We have choice. The only thing the conscious mind is good for is choice. Okay? The subconscious mind rules everything, other than the choice to have bread, butter, or not. Okay, that kind of thing. And so everybody in their reality can choose what kind of character or avatar they want. And they can do some horrific things. And if I step in front of that train that's moving, I'm probably going to get thrown out of the virtuality world I'm in. Same thing with those characters. But in reality, you could learn that, hey, wait a minute, they have no effect on me. And just like they had no effect on Jesus, because he knew who they were when they present themselves, leave me, be gone. You're not real, and I'm not dealing with you. And then they have no effects because you're not playing in their world.
They're not playing their world. I did have one experience where I did see an entity in front of me, and did not scare me, and not very nice looking one. And I looked at him and I said, I think out loud, I said, "You are not real." Oops. No, sorry about that. I first said, "I do not fear you." Didn't move. I said it again, but more intense. "I do not fear you." Didn't move. Then I said, "You are not real," and it faded out.
You should have asked them if they had a dance ticket.
I didn't invite them back in.
But you know where I was going there.
I have forgotten that. That happened a couple years ago, so it's like, okay.
When you throw a curve that's totally off the wall, the conscious mind is scrambling for an answer because it doesn't make sense. And that at that moment, at that instant, and where they're grasping, and they will take a suggestion. So you could have said, and of course, who would have thought of this? That I'm just making, but the reality is would you like to dance? Did you bring a dance ticket? And at that moment, when they're be gone with you, and they would have vanished in a heartbeat. Just try that next time.
Just hope that I plan there's not going to be a next time on that one, but just a couple things that I wanted to bring up regarding Earth changes, because this has been bannered around in the governments in the last few months, and I just thought it would be nice to talk about it and only take a moment here. But this is it's stuff that we talked about in Angel Group years ago. But one thing that is happening now in Antarctica, as well as the Arctic, It says our ice sheets and our poles are breaking loose and will float about our ocean waters. Right? It's happening. The weight of these sheets will change the topography of the lands below your waters. There will be a lot of pushing and shoving of the lands. They said remain centered in your hearts, and the transitions are and will be just that, transitions. No need to fear these changes. Yes, many humans, animals, and plants will lose their earthly lives. And I remember these words, and it came out, let them go.
Yeah.
Endangered species. People are trying to hold on to all these, ecological things, which, has merit. But I have never forgotten the words, let them go, because other beings are coming in to replace them.
Right.
So, yeah. So see with the renewed visions as we go through these processes of being home or quarantined or whatever. But it forces us to go more internally. It doesn't force us. We have the opportunity or choice to go in more internally. So that is it.
We've used up almost a full half an hour. We have 4 minutes left. I don't know where the time went. When we were discussing what we were going to do, you were going to take over, and I wasn't going to do much. And now here we are, and the half hour is almost gone. So if we're opening up for questions now, if there's anybody that's live who wants to ask a question, just hit *6 to unmute yourself, and then ask away. All right. Well, that's great. I want to remind you all that Bev and myself are available for a counseling session if you'd like to talk to us about anything. That number to book an appointment to have us call you back would be 864-999-3008. And just leave your name, your phone number, and which of us you would like to receive a call back from, and we'll be happy to do that for you. Bev, any final word before we say goodnight?
Well, thank you all. If you have any questions, because we did cover quite a bit tonight, and we can go on different streams of information from many of the things that we just talked about. But if you have any questions on that, please let us know what those are, and it helps us decide what we want to talk about in our shows. Because we're here for you, and we want to share the information that we have. And, of course, we learn a lot from you, too. So the more that we share, the more that we all learn more about ourselves.
Very good. Thank you all for listening, and those that will listen to this on their homes, on their computers. Thank you also for tuning in. Until next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, this is Terry Palma and Bev Thompson wishing you a very happy week. And remember, you can conscious gather instead of physically gathering at this time. Good night.
Well said. Good night.